Thank you, Mariana, and thanks everyone for being here. It's such a privilege to be here, not only at FII, and invest in dignity is such a powerful idea, but look at the panel I have. What a privilege, what an honor. So yeah, this is fantastic to be here with you. Of course, our panel, Ascending Economic Powers Will Reshape the Future of Investment, which is very, very keen on everything we've heard so far this morning. So my privilege to introduce you, this fantastic panel. To my left, His Excellency Ahmed AlKhateeb, Minister of Tourism of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Baroness Ariane de Rothschild. She is the Chief Executive Officer, CEO of Edmond de Rothschild. André Esteves, my fellow Brazilian here, Chairman and Senior Partner of BTG Pactual, and also Brazilian. Minister Aloizio Mercadante, President of BNDES, the Brazilian National Development Bank. You've heard a lot about their plans already since yesterday, so it's really great to be here and have this fantastic panel to walk us through. Well, dear panel, history did not end, as we all know, and we have, in fact, economic tectonic shifts, right, happening right now. We are in Rio, capital of the G20. We heard President Lula earlier talking about this, the G20 being maybe a symbol of the ascending powers and the new economic powers that are here, and also a lot about the friendship with Saudi Arabia. And at the same time, of course, and as being discussed here, we have deep changes happening, both climate risk, we have technology. I need not say this to this audience or to all of you, but with this new scenario, ascending economic powers, it's a different geopolitical situation as well, but also economic, and all these risks and challenges. How are these powers, or this new scenario, reshaping investment and the investment landscape? So I want to start with you, Minister AlKhateeb, because, Your Excellency, we have the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is maybe the most emblematic example we have right now of this change, of ascending powers and actually having a much louder voice in the global arena and having a more say, but also being seen differently. So not long ago, I don't think Saudi Arabia was thought of as an investment recipient, right, as a place to go and invest, and also as a travel spot, right? It was not considered. And this change in perception has been absolutely incredible. The country has been, Vision 2030, but there is a lot that went into it, and I would love for you to speak and talk to us a little bit about that, because ascending powers, a lot of us, I'm Brazilian myself, are seen in a light of not the important ones still, and you are changing this game. So tell us about that work.
Thank you very much, and a very good morning. I would like to take this opportunity to thank FII, His Excellency Mr. Yasser Mayyan, the chairman of the FII, and my friend Richard, the CEO, for inviting me to be part of this very prestigious event, and held in this beautiful city. And a matter of fact, I was in Barcelona yesterday chairing the Executive Council of the UN Tourism, and my friend, the Minister of Tourism of Brazil, was very disappointed when he knew that I'm flying to Rio, and he is in Barcelona. I promised him to come back again, but going back to your question, it is all about having the clear vision, and the willingness and the leadership and the resources. Saudi Arabia have been very, very busy with producing oil and refining oil for the last 5, 6, 7 decades. But with Vision 2030 that we launched back in 2016, led by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, we know that we have a lot of resources other than our oil that we should unlock. For example, the tourism, where the country used to be closed, and you shared with me your experience for many, many years, because we used to enjoy the oil revenues and the petrochemical revenues and so on and so forth. But with Vision 2030, we decided to unlock other sectors, like here, like in Brazil. For example, the mining, tourism, and many, many other sectors. And since then, we started investing. This transformation requires three things. First, it requires a very clear vision for the future. And we have an amazing leader, the Crown Prince, who established this vision. And second, it requires a leadership and willingness. And we are all, fully committed to make this happen and support our Vision 2030. We are almost half the way of our Vision 2030. And the third pillar is the long-term view. We must have a long-term view about the future. We must not just look at the short term, rather than look at the long term. Today, we have many challenges in the world. If we look at the challenges we are having today, for example, the high inflation, the geopolitical risk, and so on and so forth, we might not have the courage to invest. But if we look at beyond 10 years and 20 years, I think we can invest comfortably. And last but not least is the resources. And we should, the two main resources, the funding, the financial resources, and the human resources. We call it the financial capital and the human capital. And believe me, I think the world have access cash. The key is the human capital. We need the right people and the right resources to make any vision and any strategy and plan happen. And this is what we have in Saudi Arabia. And I think with the 200 million people, great people live in Brazil, I think we share the common things. And with our great people, young generations, young power, we can implement any vision that we decide to implement for the future.
It's fantastic that you talk about human capital. Education was mentioned earlier, and we saw Ingrid Silva, right, the ballerina that was here earlier, that started on a social project and came out. So not wasting talents, the fantastic talents that are out there and that need to have the opportunity, right? And Ariane, I wanted to go to you because you not only run a bank and an institution that has interest in many areas, but you have your background, your upbringing, gave you a first-hand experience in many emerging markets, in many countries that today have a different standing. And so your perspective on that, on knowing these countries from the inside in, how do you see these same economies that you've known for so long exerting more power and influence? And how do you see this reshaping the future of investment? And then why and where do you invest?
Thank you. Thank you for hosting us. Yes, it's true. I said to you earlier, I'm totally biased because I grew up between South America and Africa. So I would say it runs in my blood to be part of developing countries. Maybe I will, on the macroeconomic level, I think there are really long trends that are very interesting. One of which His Excellency mentioned is demographics. I think these countries have amazing demographics, a very young population, very dynamic, which, by the way, a lot of developed countries are lacking. Another factor is urbanization. Strong urbanization is reshaping economies in these countries. And maybe I would say these are structural factors that are pushing these countries in a very strong manner. Maybe on the micro level, microeconomics, I think these are very interesting countries because you have a bulk of family and small and medium-sized companies, and I think here a lot have been talking about big corporations. I much rather focus on smaller companies because I think in these ascending economies it's going to be essential to build on these companies. Why? Because they are the core of the economy and they're very stable businesses. And so to your question, where? I think we've been investing in Africa for over 30 years in different parts of the continent, from South Africa to Kenya to Ghana to Ivory Coast, almost all African countries. Also in Asia through partnerships, and especially one that's very interesting in Vietnam. Very strong economy, very interesting to see how it's being reshaped. So for us, I think it's a privilege to accompany them in moving forward. And maybe last but not least, in Saudi Arabia, I think, and thanks to His Excellency, yes, Mr. Roumayan, we signed a partnership on the first infrastructure debt fund, Saudi fund. And I think it's interesting to have this mix of our know-how with true local needs and accompanying a country that's moving forward fast in being much more sophisticated in the financial world.
Interesting, because yeah, family businesses are kind of the core for emerging markets in general, right?
And we are family businesses.
Yeah, exactly. And then I just gonna segue. So, and André, you have the local perspective, right? You here in Brazil, we're the business firm here. So, how do you see this change or this perception that that we as Brazilians, as Brazil businesses are also out there, and this investment scenario? How do you see this change playing out, and what are you looking at right now?
Well, thank you, Cecilia. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure being here. Your Excellency, Ariane, my friend, Minister President Mercadante. Well, I'm positive on this new scenario, if you want. A lot of people talk about deglobalization, but we have different angles of looking at the same topic, right? If you see that now the G20 became more important than the G7, and I think it's a new governance body that certainly is more inclusive, right? More countries, more regions, more representation. If you look at the BRICS, which is an anachronism to talk about the Global South, again, it's a different group of countries talking about economic matters in a proper way, in a proper governance. So I like what I see. And when you look at the key measure of globalization, which is the commerce, the trade volume of commerce, still there, and it's not shrinking. It's growing. So I'm not that worried about that. Of course, that any political dislocation offered new frictions, but also new opportunities. So in this sense, I like what we are doing here. I like to have FII in Brazil, and this is a symbol of these opportunities. The relationship between Saudi the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Brazil, or even the Middle East and Latin, it's a new range of opportunities for both regions. And in this sense, I like what we discussed here. I like what President Lula said. I like what Governor Yasser said in this open session today. And when you look at Brazil, and we have the privilege of promoting this relationship between Brazil and Saudi for many years, including with an office in Saudi. And Minister, I'm amazed, we spoke earlier, I'm amazed about the transformation of the kingdom in this last decade that I have been visiting Saudi. But here in Brazil, we have an economic balanced country, right? We have low inflation, a strong balance of payments. Brazil last year had $100 billion of trade surplus, structural. Only China and Germany have a structurally higher trade surplus. Big investments, rule of law, so it's a consolidated democracy. And more than that, in this new world where transition of energy, of food, that is one of the key challenges, where food security is one of the key worries, I think Brazil can offer both of that, right? It's the cleanest energy matrix of the G20. It's the largest exporter of food in the world. And again, all of that in a country that is still young, with scale, with rule of law, with strong institutions, and in a calm geopolitical region, and especially that position itself as a peacemaker. So that's how we see the world, and quite excited about the partnership with Saudi and with Middle East as a whole.
Investing in peace, right?
Yes.
All right. And to President Mercadante, last but not least, thank you for being here. And I want to bring you a slightly different one because, you know, at a development bank and emerging markets, you know, at the moment that emerging markets want to have more say on their development journey or are having more say on their development journey, we see also that development banks are talking about collaborating more, not only, you know, BNDES, but multilaterals and the BRICS Bank. So there's this discussion going on. So how do you see this role of the development bank as a catalyst also for private investment coming here and this work together? Because I know that, you know, with the BID, the discussion on currency hedging and so on and so forth. So how do you see that, the job of the development bank more as a catalyst for more investments?
Eu vou falar em português.
I'm going to speak Portuguese.
Just 1 second.
First,
He's going to speak Portuguese, so put your headsets on. And you can have, I think it was channel 1 for English. Sorry, desculpa, Presidente.
sorry, President.
Para poder,
So just to be able to talk to you,
mas também
but also dialogue with the Jacutinga population that Luciano Huck provoked me about. And also talk about with the hills and the favelas around us for them to understand what we're talking about and therefore participate somehow in the reflection that we're having that's so rich in this opportunity. I'm here to tell you basically that you should choose Brazil, opt for Brazil. Opt for Brazil, and especially, but how about Brazil risk? The higher risk that you're going to have is wanting to be here and wanting to follow up this culture, this vibrant culture in society. But if we look more deeply, the indicators in Brazil, nowadays we are the third biggest producer of food in the country. We're the second biggest exporter in the world, in which the climate extremes demand food security. We are the fourth biggest producer of grains, first in beef, first in soy and coffee and sugar and orange juice, and I'm not going to go forward in this. And second, because in this geopolitical shift and tensions and war, this is a country that for 150 years hasn't had any wars with its neighbors. And we only have 15 countries in the UN that have relationships with all other nations, and we're one of them. We're a peace country that wants dialogue, partnerships, bridges, and this is very important, especially in a country that needs leaderships and had as a leader such as President Lula is able to dialogue and interact and talk, especially with this huge global south population. And the second reason to be here, to invest in Brazil, is that we are a country that has an energy grid in this world that climate extremes are bringing a lot of climate disasters that are extremes and more frequent. We have an energy grid that's the cleanest one in the G20, 47% of renewable grid. and 88% of electrical grid. And we're a big producer of fossil fuels, oil with Petrobras. We have still reservations to be developed, but we went through an energy transition much before because of public bank. BNDES is, according to Bloomberg, was the bank that most financed renewables in history. And this competitive advantage is decisive for us to decarbonize the economy. BNDES nowadays has an alliance with 20 development banks called Amazon Coalition to preserve, and we are investing in the restoration of the Amazon and planting to fight the deforestation process. Brazil has reduced in 50% the index of deforestation, which is our main goal to COP30. And second, we have an alliance to fund the integration, regional integration routes, $10 billion between BNDES, BID, CAF, and FEMPLAT. And we brought several investments from China, from the BRICS banks with the ex-president Dilma, CDB, CAFI from Germany, FIDA from Italy, FAO, many other organizations. It's 500 development banks all over the world with 18 trillion assets. It's about 10% of global investments. And I just want to conclude telling to the people of Jacutinga, the index of unemployment in Brazil is the smallest one in the last 10 years. The amount of employed people is the highest one in the history. The amount of waged people is the best one in the economic history of the country. The average income of population is growing 6.1% yearly. And we keep having a lot of challenges, big challenges, but we have a deep commitment to fight poverty, to distribute income with a president that was born in poverty and never forgot that he left, and he's why he's in government. And we have a tax challenge. We need to stabilize the relationship between the GDP and the debt. And I want to conclude saying that this, which is a feeling from the global south, we are facing a bigger protectionism in trade in the industrialized countries. I'm talking about China historically, but also United States and European Union. Non-reimbursable subsides, unprecedented in economic history. Just the United States, $686 billion in subsides that were developed in the last government. It's impressive. In the European Union, it's not very different. So we need to have further discussion between North and South, more partnership, and this displacement of productive chains, a denser supply chains in global South productive chains. And we want to be the leaders in energy transition, to use this amazing richness that is the biggest rainforest in the country. We have the country that has the biggest hydric resources to have clean energy and do revolutions, make revolutions in AI. We're the second country that has the most direct investments. So I just want to conclude telling all of you who came from abroad here that in life, those who can drink clean waters, those who get there first. So come, and you have BDG, a great bank, but look after BNDES because we have $100 billion portfolio, 0.50001 non-paying rate, and it's the most transparent institution in the Brazilian state. It got higher and 92% the disbursements in this last 3 months. And I just want to conclude saying, André, an important piece of news. I just want to tell the press afterwards that we have a big tax challenge. So BNDES is increasing in 50% the dividends to be paid to the National Treasury, 15 billion reais, and we want to participate this tax effort and having more resources to allow for economic stability and for the country to be able to advance. We need a bigger relationship in private and in public banks, capital, stock market, and fostering to interest income, not to miss this huge historical opportunity open to Brazil and America. Thank you.
The only risk, he said what the risk is. If you come, you may not want to leave. You're going to stay. I'm a carioca, I can say that. So we have just a few minutes left, but I would love you, Minister AlKhateeb, to do the final closing and tell us a little bit about, how do you see this future of cross-border collaboration that we're seeing sprouting?
Definitely. We launched Vision 2030, and the vision is full of opportunities. And I think we have a lot of common things to share. For example, we both put the energy on top of our agenda, the mining and many other sectors. Tourism is a sector that we need to further explore through connecting Saudi Arabia with Brazil and maybe the Middle East. And therefore, we believe that there is tons of opportunities. If I take only the travel and tourism sector in Saudi Arabia, we launched the new Riyadh Airlines, and we are building new airports. One of them is the King Salman International Airport in Riyadh, with 120 million passengers capacity, will be the biggest in the world when it's completed in 2027, 2028. The government only announced the investment of $800 billion to unlock the travel and tourism sector. So I invite you to please come and talk to us and meet in such an opportunity with the Saudi business people and community to see how can we seize some of the opportunities that the government and the Saudi private sector is offering to the world, whether in building, construction, hotel operation, cruise, and many other sectors. I can share with you small numbers. You received in Brazil like 5 million people last year, international arrivals. You have very strong domestic market, but international arrivals were 5 million. In Saudi Arabia, we received 27 million last year. 5 years ago, we only received 10 million. So we more than doubled this number because we focused on this sector, and we put the plans to unlock this sector, starting from opening the visa for everyone. You can get visa to visit Saudi Arabia in a few minutes. And we connected the Saudi city with the international cities through direct flights. And we are building the new destinations and the new investment. And we committed to create 1 million additional jobs for the young Saudis, to join this new sector. And we are doing all this responsibly, respecting the environment. We created the Global Tourism Sustainability Center to make sure that whatever we build in the Red Sea or in the Green Mountains in the south will definitely respect and protect the environment. And I think, I can see there is an amazing opportunity to further develop the bilateral relationship and to have more than only, agricultural relationship and trade relationship.
Absolutely. I have to run because I have to buy my ticket to Saudi Arabia to this pitch. So thank you so much to all the panelists. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned. There's a lot more coming. Thanks, FII, for allowing me to moderate this.
Thank you very much.